Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the Tunbridge and Moorland Borough Council Cabinet. For the benefit of those watching our meeting on YouTube this evening, members of the Cabinet are here present in the chamber, and these members will be voting on proposals. Other members of the council are in attendance via Microsoft Teams, and they can take part in any discussions and ask questions, but they cannot vote. Please can I draw everyone's attention to agenda item 1, which sets out the guidance on how meetings will be conducted, including the ground rules. Before we start the meeting, I shall confirm attendance by doing a formal roll call of members in the chamber. So starting with myself, my name is Matt Borson, I'm the Chair of Cabinet and I'm leader of the council. Robin, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Cabinet Member for Housing, Environment and Economy.
Adam?
Good evening, Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Tunbridge Regeneration.
Des?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Cabinet Member for Community Services.
And Mike?
Mike Taylor, short and sweet, Cabinet Member for Planning.
Thank you. I'll now ask officers to introduce themselves. Shall I start on my left, Alison? Do you want to start?
Alison Paris, Democratic Services Officer.
Good evening, everybody. Damien Roberts, Chief Executive.
Good evening, everybody. Paul Worden, Head of Finance and Section 151 Officer.
Ron, Jill Fox, Corporate Policy and Communities Manager.
And joining us online this evening is Will Waite. Will, can you hear us?
I can indeed. Thank you, Chairman. William Waite, Revenue and Benefits Manager.
Thank you very much, Will. And for everyone else, if you can just introduce yourselves when you speak, that would be superb. Right, we've done agenda item 1. That's the guidance on how we will conduct the meeting. Before I move on any further, though, can I just ask the Cabinet's agreement that we shuffle the order of the agenda round? Just a very simple shuffle, really, and that we move agenda item 11, which is the annual service delivery plan, before item 10, which is the Treasury Management Update and Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy. And the reason for this change is so that the annual service delivery plan, which is somewhat intertwined with the budget, can be taken immediately after the budget. Is that okay for everyone? Oh, super. Thank you. Right. So agenda item 2, our apologies for absence. We have an apology for absence from Martin Coffin, who is watching us online. Agenda item 3 are declarations of interest. Does any member have any interest to declare? No? Super. Agenda item 4, these are the minutes of our previous meeting, which was on Tuesday, the 6th of January. They are on page 15. Can I confirm these as a correct record, please? That was agreed. Thank you all very much. Right, if we move on to agenda item 5, this is on page 27, and it is setting the budget 2026-27. We have got a number of recommendations that are on pages 28 and 29. I'll hand over to Paul to start with.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to very briefly start off with the provisional assessment, which was announced in December and reflected the outcomes of the fair funding report review and the business rates reset that we have been expecting from central government for several years. The details of this are shown within section 6 of the report. The final assessment was announced yesterday. Changes were made by the government due to a perceived error on their part on some of our calculations that were undertaken. So I just wanted to explain what the result of that was, and it turned authorities who were part of a business rates pool, which we are currently a member of the Kent business rates pool. So, first of all, I can say between the 3 years of the settlement, there's been no change to the business rate figures that we've had as part of the settlement for the 3 years that we've been set for 26-27, 27-28 and 28-29. However, some changes could occur in 27-28 because there will be a shift from where they initially set the baseline to where it could be on March 31st of this year. Moving on to the revenue support grant, there were some changes made. In 26-27, we've actually had a reduction in our grant funding of just over £342,000. However, the government has found some money down the back of the sofa again, and they've actually compensated the district councils for this. So we're getting £342,000 back. But fortunately, for the budget you've got sitting in front of you, there is no change to the government funding. What it has done, though, is actually there's been a follow-on to the following financial year, which actually gives a reduction in our government funding for 27-28, just under £173,000. This time, no compensatory funds are going to be issued. 2028-29, no further changes, which is good news because actually that's the figures that go long-term into the MTFS and gives me some degree of satisfaction on what I can present to you later on. The impacts of these changes I'll be explaining later on when I might get down to the section on the MTFS. With the revenue estimates, I'm not going to go into the detail of these estimates because they were presented to overview and scrutiny in January and they were considered by members at that stage. I would point out that these estimates included the savings that were required under the Savings and Transformation Strategy, which was set in February 25, which was detailed in paragraph 14.3 on page 46 of just over £600,000, which were included. Some changes have been made to the estimates since the ONS committee. These have been detailed in the table on paragraph 9.7 on page 36 of your agenda. The major changes of these are around changes around following the General Purposes Committee on staffing, but the three biggest changes actually are proposed contributions to the reserves, and these are as follows. £3.5 million to the Angel Centre, £700,000 to local government reorganisation, and £225,000 for the local plan. All the reasons are detailed in the report. This, after everything, leaves a contribution to the General Revenue Reserve of just over £776,000 for this financial year. Moving on to the capital plan, again, these were detailed and considered and recommended by overview and scrutiny in January. Details of which are in section 11 of the report, pages 36 to 39 of your report. But as part of the budgetary process, we have to take due regard of the Council's Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy. That's contained in section 12, starting at page 39. This gives the expected levels of Treasury investment and over the next few years and any borrowing requirements that the Council may have to consider. Coming back to the MTFS, the effect of the government's reductions have actually been lower than we thought they were going to be. Our previous MTFSs that both Sharon and I prepared and Neil prepared over the recent years actually expected a much harder hit than we actually received. That has actually been quite advantageous to us in the longer term. But it doesn't mean that we have significant amounts of funds that we have available. It still means that we are tight at this particular stage. Working through the changes that we have through, Annex 10A gave details of where we were with the provisional settlement. With the changes that have actually were announced yesterday, 36 sounds a long way away, really. Surplus that we are expected to generate drops by £1,000 from 318 to 317,000. But the bigger change comes from the change in the General Revenue Reserve. That will be reduced from 4.8 million to 4.6 million, basically out of the loss of the £173,000 in the second year of grant funding. Inflationary adjustments are mentioned in paragraphs 13.17 and 13.18 have also changed, with a small change in the surplus being generated here, but a reduction in the reserve to 3.5 million. Again, in line with the MTFS overall structure. I would like to emphasise that both of those MTFSs result in a zero funding gap being identified for this financial year and ongoing through the financial plan as it stands. But I would also point out that if the plan also includes certain savings that have been inbuilt, covering office accommodation from the use of Gibson West, the use of homelessness properties rather than our own homelessness properties rather than using overnight accommodation, the service fee income from the Leisure Trust. As the council has now no longer got a funding gap at this time, I've seen no need to revise the Savings and Transformation Strategy for this financial year. It doesn't mean that this may not come back in future years, because if material changes actually happen in the longer term. Then I'm just going to quickly go through the remainder of the report. Collection fund adjustments, we are required as a billing authority to hold a separate account for the collection fund, which is basically the income expenditure relating to the concerning of council tax and business rates and who they are being go through. We only retain a very small proportion in respect of council tax, but retain a larger portion in respect of business rates. Details are shown on paragraph 15.3 on page 46. Moving on to special expenses and parish precepts, the council set up a special expenses scheme several years ago. Details are shown in annexes 13A and 13B, given the details of special expenses for various areas of the borough. And Annex 14 gives details of parish precepts that we have received from the parishes around. Given all of this, the current council tax for the borough is being expected to be £252.65, a 3% increase on last year's level, being the maximum allowed that we can go by without triggering a referendum. The actual amount after you adjust for special expenses gives a basic council tax of £230.47. If it ever turns out that the special expenses and the basic tax comes back to the other figure of £265 or £252, it is a pure fluke. Part of my role as Section 151 officer, I'm required to prepare a statement on the robustness of estimates and adequacy of reserves. Annex 16A gives my report to this, and I've also given details of expected reserve balances in Annex 16B based on the current estimate. Finally, I'd like to the report finally gives the detail of the council tax requirement and from the basic council tax, special expenses and parish councils Annex 17. That concludes my introduction. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'll ask Cabinet to approve the recommendations to council at paragraph 3. Thank you.
Paul, thank you ever so much. There's an awful lot in there, an awful lot in the annexes, and a great amount of work that has gone into this. There's lots of areas that cover. Perhaps I'll just start with a comment, really, which is I think prudent financial planning over many years that actually we've been able to plan accordingly settlement got ourselves into a position where essentially there isn't a funding gap like we've had in many previous years, and that's not not thanks to the government. That's thanks to the way that you colleagues, past and present, have handled it. So thank you, Paul. I don't see any members online with their hands up. If you do have any questions, do but since I don't, I'll come to Cabinet to add to what Paul said. Super. Well, that's just how we like it from a budgetary perspective, isn't it? So, well done, Paul. Right.
Chair,
Oh, Mike, sorry.
just thank you.
Short and sweet again, Mike. Excellent. No, absolutely. Right. This is where it gets a bit complicated, so please bear with me. At page 28 and 29, we have got 9 different recommendations, but some of them, particularly at 3.4, have got 6 different recommendations within the recommendation. Can I suggest, given that anyone watching this meeting on YouTube will be able to refer to the agenda pack, these recommendations, that I don't read them out, and instead I will happy to propose from the chair that we recommend, because they're all recommendations to council, and there are some to note, that we recommend to a council all of them on block and note those that we have to note. So I'm happy to propose that. Can I have a second? Mike, thank you very much. Can we agree that collectively? That is agreed. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is at page 113. This is setting the council tax for the forthcoming year. Paul, anything to add on this?
No, just very quickly to go through this report gives the proposed council tax for Cabinet to recommend to full council for February 24th. The proposed Band D charge is £252.65, which is a 3% increase on the Band D charge for 25. This is the maximum increase that's permissible under the guidance issued by the Secretary of State without the need for holding a referendum. Tax base was agreed by myself under delegated powers and is shown in Annex 1 and has been shared with precepting bodies, both parish and police, fire and Kent County Council. We are now just awaiting Kent County Council's council tax. Their meeting is due to be held on Thursday this week. Providing that is agreed, we will then have a full resolution that goes through. If there is not an agreement, their reserve date is the 26th, which is 2 days after our proposed council meeting. So there will be a major panic if there is not that the case, but I'll come to that. Could I please ask the Cabinet to consider the recommendations at paragraph 3 on pages 113? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. You've directed us towards a recommendation. What I would say is perhaps if Kent County Council don't set a budget on Thursday, we'll that bridge when we get there. Usually you would say, I'm sure they'll set a budget, but with the current administration, I'm not so sure they know what they're doing. That's just my opinion and not necessarily a statement of fact. Any questions? I don't see any. Mine again. Colleagues in the chamber. Okay, one from me, again, a statement rather than a question. I didn't get into this local government business to increase council tax, but unfortunately our financial situation has determined that the previous years and for this year too. But as we've heard before, we've been able to withstand many financial because so won't be a surprise to our residents, and obviously we take each year in turn, and if to increase council tax next year will, but I don't. On that note, I'm happy to recommend to full council that this is a 3% or £7.35 per annum increase in the borough council's element of the council tax for 26-27. And obviously to note the draft that Paul referred to. Can I have a seconder, please? Robin, thank you. Can we agree that unanimously? That was agreed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much again, Paul. Right, we move on to agenda item 7. This is the council tax reduction scheme for 26-27 at page 123 of the agenda. Paul, is this your will?
It's myself. Will's here to answer any technical questions that there may be. The council is required to present the local council tax reduction scheme annually to council, considering any changes that are being proposed to residents on low incomes, benefits or pension age households. The report and the annex details is the proposed scheme, and the council are required to publish this as part of the overall information on the council's website. Any technical questions I'll refer to Will, who is online, but would ask the Cabinet to consider any recommendations given at paragraph 3 on page 123 of your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Do we have any questions for Paul or Will? Don't see any. Colleagues in the room, any questions? No? Super. Well, this is all going well. In that case, again, I'm happy to propose the local council tax reduction scheme 27. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Des, thank you. Can we all agree that, Cabinet? That was agreed too. Thank you. Thank you, Paul and Will, for putting together such a good policy. Right. Agenda item 8 is at page 257. They are the revenue estimates 26-27. We have kind of covered that, but we have really covered that in, as Paul discussed, under item 5. But what I will just do, Cabinet, if you don't mind, is just ask for audit purposes that we confirm the recommendations that came from the Overview and Scrutiny Committee when they discussed this at their meeting of the 22nd of January. So again, happy to propose that. Can I have a seconder, please? Robin, thank you very much. Can we agree that? Thank you. That was all agreed. Agenda item 9 is a capital plan review that was also discussed at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee and has been referenced within the setting the budget papers and the recommendations on page 280. Happy to propose. Can I have a seconder, please? Adam, thank you very much. Can we all agree that, colleagues? Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, we now come to the part of the agenda in which we will swap around. So we'll do item 11 next. That's the annual service delivery plan for 26-27. Jill.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. As you know, this is our main performance management tool, setting out our priorities and our key milestones and targets. So not everything that we'll be doing over the year, but the main projects that we've identified for delivery this year, brought to this meeting to sort of further embed with the annual budget setting process. There was a good discussion at Overview and Scrutiny, and I think it was largely well received. I was asked to go back on the affordable housing target, which is on page 443, your agenda, regarding the figure there and whether it could be broken down regarding the mix and variety of property types. I did speak to the head of housing, and this information can be provided to members, but we won't be changing the breakdown in the plan. But as and when we have that detail, it can be shared with members. And other than that, I think it's much the same as it was at O&M.
Excellent. Thank you ever so much, Jill. Any questions, colleagues? None online? Everyone in the chamber happy? Excellent, good stuff. Well, I'll move straight to the recommendations then. Obviously, what we've got from overview and scrutiny is subject to the amendments, corrections and points of clarification that Jill has referenced and subsequently been picked up, that we approve the annual service delivery plan. So can I have a proposer, please? There's a seconder, Mike. Can we agree that, Cabinet? That was agreed unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Jill. Thank you for your work. Thank you to all the services you fed in. Thank you, Damien, for your leadership on this issue too. Right, we'll move back to agenda item 10. Hopefully you're all following me, which is the Treasury Management Update and Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy 26-27, which was published as a supplementary paper in the supplementary agenda that came out last Tuesday. This was considered at the Audit Committee at its meeting on the 26th of January 2026, and this is available at pages 3 and 4 of the supplementary paper. Paul, do you wish to add? There's nothing to add. Right, we are asked by the Audit Committee that we note the Treasury Management's position at the 30th of November 25, and that the Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy 26-27 at Annex 5 be adopted. Do we have any questions on this? And none in the chamber. Right, I'm happy to propose that. Can I have a seconder, please? Mike, thank you very much. Can we agree that collectively, Cabinet? Excellent. Thank you all very much. Right, we've done item 11, so we'll move on to item 12. This is the Procurement Partnership Formal Review. This was also at the Overview and Scrutiny Committee of the 22nd of January 26, and the Overview and Scrutiny Committee has recommended to us option 3, which is to continue with the procurement partnership for a further review in 4 years' time and ensure that the budget was made available to be commended to Cabinet for adoption. Well, we kind of covered the budgets earlier in the meeting, so that's hopefully all well and good. Any questions on the procurement partnership? Starting online, see, and moving in the chamber. Okay, in that case, well, I'm happy to confirm that by proposing that we continue with the procurement partnership for a further review in 4 years' time. Can I have a seconder, please? Adam, thank you very much. Can we agree that collectively, Cabinet? That was agreed collectively. Thank you very much. Right, if we can just go back to the supplementary paper at agenda item 13. This is risk management, which was considered by the Audit Committee at its meeting of the 26th of January 2026. I'm looking at page 5 of the supplementary paper. And what the Audit Committee has recommended to us is that the updates to the Strategic Risk Register since the last iteration be noted, with particular emphasis on those risks categorised in red, and that the service risks in Annex 2 also be noted. Like the Audit Committee did, but there's also a sorry, correction. I knew I was going to go wrong tonight. We need to agree then. Does anyone have any questions on the risk management system before I trip myself up again? None online? None in the chamber? Okay, well, we are asked to agree those updates to Strategic Risk Register. I'm happy to propose that. I asked for a seconder if you've all followed what I said earlier. Robin, thank you. Can we agree that collectively, please? That was agreed. Thank you very much. Right, to make matters more complicated, can I turn everyone's attention towards the second supplementary paper for this meeting, which was agenda item 14. This is the National Planning Policy Framework, proposed reforms and other changes to the planning system, which was considered at length and in detail by the Housing and Planning Scrutiny Select Committee at its meeting last Tuesday, the 3rd of February. Now, we will see at page 4 of the second supplementary that we are being asked to confirm the Council's response to the Government's National Planning Policy Framework, proposed reforms and other changes to the planning system consultation, and that delegated authority is granted to the Director of Planning, Housing and Regulatory Services to make any necessary minor changes to our response to the said consultation in consultation with myself and Mike as the cabinet member for planning. Mike, you were at the meeting. Anything to add to the committee's deliberations?
I've had a personal issue. I did raise it at HBSSC, and this is question 168. Six, can't read my own writing. It's about contamination remediation, which, as you know, I've got 3 housing estates built on contaminated landfill, so it's a particularly sensitive topic. And I don't think the NPPF or our draft response actually highlight the important difference between the responsibility of a developer to remediate contamination and the responsibility of the LPA to monitor and approve that remediation. I think there needs to be a clear distinction between those 2 roles. And I'd appreciate if the suggested comment can be changed at this late stage. Thank you.
Yes, we can change that. Just forgive me, like 166. And there's an addition that's gone in on tracked changes. Yeah. You want to put your microphone on, Mike?
In my mind, that addition is as woolly as the NPPF. It needs that clear distinction.
Okay, well, it's upon ourselves to strengthen that. Do you have any particular wording beyond what you just said, or?
I think that in the first part of the response, the officer's response, we need the word principally. A safe development principally rests with the developer, but there is a responsibility on the LPA to monitor and approve.
I'm sure we can have that.
Thank you very much.
And Damien has just reminded me that actually we can pick up any further changes, precise wording of our response to the question, provided they don't get essence of it, under the delegated authority if we agree to that tonight.
Thank you.
But I do suggest that we make the amendment to add in that this is principally the responsibility of the developer. So if you're proposing that, which I'm assuming you are, Mike.
I am.
Excellent. I'm happy to second that. But before we go to the vote, let's just check with colleagues. Do we have any other questions, colleagues, online or in the chamber for that? Adam?
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, yeah, I think it's a very good response. I question the way the government is kind of proposing some of these changes, to be honest, but I think the way that we've put forward our response to it is very good. I did see a minor typo on the question or the response to question 145. It says footnote, should read footnote 7, I think, as a minor point, but yeah, those are the areas that concern me the most. I think that, the decision of the government to remove, footnote 7 designations from grey belt, I can't really understand that, and I'm pleased to see that the response, picks up those concerns. So yeah, I think it's a good piece of work.
Yes, absolutely, and we can pick up. In fact, Mike, if you incorporate into, if you're happy, incorporate into the recommendation the typing error that Adam picked up at question 147.
I did actually pick it up myself and emailed Alison about it.
Oh, super. Well, in that case, this is all old news to everyone other than me then. So great. It's still a minor correction, so we can deal with it that way too. Right. We've got a proposal from Mike. I'm happy to second. Can we agree that collectively, Cabinet? That was agreed. Thank you very much. And I would echo, this is a long bit of work. And the reason it's a long bit of work is because Adam said, I'm not really sure why the government are doing half changes, and they certainly won't benefit us, but that's a discussion for another day. Right, agenda item 15 are decisions taken by cabinet members. Page 561 of the agenda. There are 3 items on here that haven't been discussed at a cabinet meeting, so I shall ask the decision maker to, if they've got anything to add. The top one there is a decision that Robin took back at the start of January, agreement with Kent County Council regarding the former commuter car park at Bluebell Hill. Anything to add, Robin?
No, I'm just delighted that we're moving forward with a really, really positive scheme. So, and I'm glad that Casey's here on our side with this. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. As always, any questions, please put your hands up. Next decision was taken by Adam on Des's behalf because Des wasn't available at the time, and that is to agree the change of use of the Jubilee Room at the Angel Centre to an Innervus. Anything to add, Adam or Des? No, that's what it says on the tin. And the final decision was taken by me on Martin's behalf, and that was to agree an application for a Section 13A 1C council tax discount, which I hope is explanatory. No questions on our decisions, so we'll move on to agenda item 16, which is a notice of forthcoming key decisions. This is also published in the first supplementary paper and is available between pages 7 and 11. Can we note the forthcoming key decisions, Cabinet? Excellent. Right, move on to agenda item 17, which are urgent items. I haven't been notified of any items that need to be taken urgently. However, we do have one item that must be considered in private. So as agenda item 18, I do need to move that we wish everyone who's watching us on YouTube a very good evening, but I do need to ask that the stream of this meeting is stopped. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Mike, thank you very much. Are we all agreed, colleagues? Okay, well, to everyone watching us on YouTube, thank you very much.